All right, everybody, major announcement alert. I'm excited to announce an all-new series coming to the Outdoor Stand podcast called Canadian Bush Report. I am doing a weekly, short-based episodes that will be uploaded every Thursday that will explore the past, present, and future of what is going on in the woods, or as us Canadians like to call it, the bush. They will be short monologue-style podcasts that will cover outdoor topics in relation to what is going on in the Canadian woods. So tune in every Thursday for the Canadian Bush Report listed here on the Outdoor Stand podcast. Now, back to the show.
Welcome to the Outdoor Stand podcast.
Okay. All right. Welcome back, everyone, to another Outdoor Stand podcast. Took a little bit of a break there, 2 weeks actually, but here we are again with another special guest, one of Canada's most accomplished outdoor writers, author of No Place Like Home, an award-winning book, and a lifetime of outdoor knowledge, Mr. Ken Bailey. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, well, thanks for inviting me out, Dan. It's a real honor and a pleasure.
Oh, well, no problem at all. How you doing today?
You know what, to be honest with you, I'm a little tired. If I look tired and if I sound tired, it's because I am. In the last 48 hours, I was in 5 different countries coming home from Southern Africa. So I'm still feeling a little bit of the effects of jet lag and time change.
Yeah, no doubt. And you were hunting over there?
I was wing shooting. I was bird hunting in South Africa and in Zimbabwe.
Nice. And that's not your first time, right? Like I heard you on a podcast that you've gone over there a few times now.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things they say you can't go to Africa just once, and it's true. I think that was I'm not really sure. I think 13th time. I have developed a very good friendship with a fella over there who owns a hunting magazine in South Africa. And he owns a guest lodge, and he and I have really hit it off over the years, and I go over there to visit him, and then the two of us kind of cook up adventures to go on together. He arranges them. He knows the community there, the hunting community, and he arranges these trips for us. And so it's been an annual thing for the last probably 10 years, and I had been over there 2 or 3 times prior to that. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. What's your favorite animal hunt over there?
You know, it's even tougher than picking a favorite animal here because, you know, the great thing about Africa is the diversity. You know, there's so many different animals and so many different birds. And I've been doing a lot of wing shooting over there as well. But if I had to pick probably just one, it would be Cape buffalo.
Really?
Yeah, I've only hunted them twice, but they're a lot of fun to hunt. And of course, they got a little bit of that scare factor happening, and you know, you got to get in close and personal with them. And yeah, it's pretty exciting.
No doubt. What do you usually use to take down one of those bad boys?
I've only hunted them twice, and in both times I was using a 375 H&H, which is in most African countries the minimum size caliber you're allowed to use for Cape buffalo. They have restrictions on caliber size for some of the animals over there, and that's one of them. So you have to use 375 or bigger. Yeah.
Wow. And do you have any hunts that are the most memorable to you at all, or?
From over there, you know, I had the good fortune to get to hunt leopard one time. And that's a interesting and spooky hunt all of its own. And you sit in these blinds, and you know it was 38 degrees, and sitting there, and you're hunting over bait. So there's this half rotted meat, and of course you're set up so the wind's blowing towards you, and this stifling heat, and you got to sit there for hours on end. And you earn the shot if you get the opportunity. I had to spend 4 days in that blind to get the opportunity, and that was really lucky. I mean, I've heard numerous tales about people who've hunted 10 and 20 and 30 days, gone back 3 or 4 times to try and get a leopard, and I just got lucky. But it was
Wow.
it was pretty memorable nonetheless. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Was it more at dusk that time that you shot it?
Was it what? I'm sorry.
Was it at dusk?
At
Like,
dusk?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Right at dusk.
yeah, yeah. Because my family and I, we went to over to Africa, just like a safari type of thing.
Yeah.
And anyways, we had this leopard watching every night, so they had the bait hanging from a tree limb, and
Okay.
yeah, so the leopard was kind of used to the situation not being hunted, but he would come up, make his little show and tell thing, and it was pretty cool. But
They're neat animals, and
yeah,
yeah, and so it was right at dusk, but you have to get into the blind early because when they're being hunted, they're so sensitive and so spooky that if they have any sense you're there, they won't come to the bait, and so you spend hours in that blind waiting for dusk to come, or hoping that it might even come out a little sooner. Yeah, yeah,
hmm
and then we spend the whole night in the blind because the other thing is it might come out at first light, and you don't want to sort of come into the blind when it might be on the bait or in the area. You're in that blind all night long waiting for first light. So typically we would hunt, the last 3 hours maybe before dusk, and then the first couple hours or hour and a half maybe in daylight. But you're in the blind all night long, trying not to move, trying not to sneeze or cough or scratch yourself or scratch the
yeah.
blind material. Or
And then as you think about like trying not to sneeze, and that's when that happens, or like cough.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, that was in Namibia, and it turned out managed to get a nice big tom leopard. So that might be
Nice.
my most memorable hunt over there for sure. But
Wow, that's cool. Yeah.
on this most recent trip that I got back from, we spent quite a bit of time wing shooting, and people don't think of the wing shooting in Africa very much. It's not the big attractant, I suppose, for most people, but it's some of the very best in the world. And we did a lot this time. We did some waterfowl and we did some guinea fowl, but we spent a lot of time hunting francolin, which are very similar to our Hungarian partridge, if you will,
hmm
and hunting them over pointing dogs there. And the wing shooting professionals over there, the guides, they're as dedicated wing shooters and of dog people as anybody that we know here in North America. I mean, these dogs are absolutely superb, and
mm
and there's kind of you're covering a lot of ground, but there's a lot of good habitat there, and you get a lot of points over the course of a day and a lot of opportunity to shoot. So
Wow.
yeah, I would encourage anybody going over there to try and plan, if you're an avid wing shooter at home, to plan a couple days of wing shooting on top of your typical safari when you're
Mm.
there. You won't regret it.
Yeah, you don't usually hear wing shooting there over there in Africa, so I'll have to look into that.
You should, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely for sure. So I first, I guess, heard of you. I guess I was just googling, outdoor writers, and so you popped up on the Outdoors Canada website there. So that was pretty cool. But why don't you just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself there, like how long you've been hunting for, or your favorite hunt to kind of go on.
Yeah, so I suppose like um, most or many hunters, I grew up with a real passion for wildlife. When I was a kid, I just loved. I was the kid who came home with snakes in his pocket and bits of eggshell and all the other nonsense that most of us who are hunters as adults did as kids, And I first started hunting. I actually lived in Ontario when I got my hunter education in Ontario. Started by we would hunt, groundhogs, woodchucks, and with 22s, and that was my sort of first exposure to it. I'd have been, I don't know, 13 or 14, I suppose. It was just a way. It became a way to enjoy the outdoors, and I've spent the last 50 years of my life now, with a gun or a fishing rod in my hand whenever I could. Professionally, have spent most of my career in the wildlife biology world, wildlife conservation, habitat conservation. I spent many years with Ducks Unlimited Canada, and I worked for a couple other, government of Alberta at one time, government of BC at one time, and a couple other nonprofit conservation organizations. And so I've been involved with the outdoor community my entire adult life, and all along I was a passionate hunter. And I guess, it was when I don't know how old I was at the time. I hate to give away too much, but in the late 80s, I met a fellow who owned a magazine, and I was working for Ducks Unlimited at the time, and he asked me to, and he knew I was a waterfowl hunter as well, and he asked me if I'd be interested in writing a story about waterfowl hunting for his magazine. And I said, sure. It had always kind of interested me, the whole outdoor writing world. I grew up, like many did, reading all the magazines and the books I could find about hunting and fishing, and so I wrote that article for him, and that really started me off on a sort of a secondary career path, if you will. And I've been writing for outdoor publications pretty steady since 1990 now, I guess. So I've kind of had this dual track professionally of kind of wildlife conservation professional on the one side, and then outdoor writer. But I always have looked at the outdoor writing as just kind of a way to pay for my bad habits, So I wasn't spending the kids' university money or the rent money on shotguns and fly rods. So,
Yeah.
It's been really good. It's, getting involved in the outdoor writing world has opened up doors for me to see places and enjoy experiences that I never would have otherwise. And I'm very grateful for, what it's allowed me to do.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's such a cool, I find it's a cool job. And some of the people that I talk to within the social media world, a lot of them, like, yeah, they'll start writing, they start to do some volunteer work, that sort of thing. And I just think it's such a cool industry, and I hope magazines like keep going and publications keep going. But when did you and how did you first start working for Outdoor Canada?
So I used to own and be the editor for a magazine in Western Canada called The Outdoor Edge, and that was in the I think we started in that was in the early '90s, and I joined at that time the Outdoor Writers of Canada. I wanted to get to I really didn't know many of the writers or people in the industry. So I joined the Outdoor Writers of Canada and went to their annual convention, which was in Calgary that year. I lived in Edmonton at the time. And they had a field day where we went out to the local range and shot guns and other kinds of similar nonsense, and didn't know a soul. Got on the bus to go out there, and this woman sat down beside me, and it turned out she was the editor of Outdoor Canada. And we started talking quite a bit, and we hit it off. And she was real old school. Probably most of your listeners won't understand the reference, but she was kind of a Lou Grant type. And Lou Grant was he was on a television show years ago called the Mary Tyler Moore Show. It was a newsroom show, and he was this tough, hard smoking, hard drinking kind of journalist. And this lady, Teddy Brown, was sort of from the same ilk, a real journalist, and anyway, we kind of got to know each other a little bit, and at that time, Outdoor Canada had a sort of much broader editorial profile. It wasn't just hunting and fishing. It was, canoeing or, ice climbing or other outdoor pursuits. And anyway, about 2 or 3 years after that, I actually sold out of my position in the magazine that I owned. I wanted to get back into the wildlife conservation world as a full-time profession. And when I did sell, almost immediately I had a call from Teddy Brown saying, "Ken, I understand you're not going to be the editor for the Outdoor Edge anymore. Would you be interested in writing a column for me?" She had been sort of following my work, and specifically she asked me if I would write a wildlife column, knowing I had a wildlife background and things. And of course I jumped at it. Outdoor Canada back then, like it is today, was the premier magazine for the outdoor community, the only really national magazine we have. And so I said yeah, and started writing every issue, on some kind of wildlife related topic. And it was only a couple years later that I only did that for about 2 years when the magazine decided to become more vertical. They were just going to be hunting and fishing. And
right.
So the wildlife column disappeared, but they needed somebody to start writing the hunting column. And they asked me if I would take that on. And I think that was probably 1995. So I think it's been 30 years that I've been writing the hunting column and writing other feature stories for Outdoor Canada. Yeah, I've been writing for them now. I think many of your listeners would know the magazine, and up until recently, Gord Pizer, who was the fishing columnist, and
the fishing guru.
He was the longest serving contributor, but he's retired now, and so I think I'm the longest serving contributor at Outdoor Canada. I think I've been through 5 different publishers who owned the magazine and 3 editors over the years.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's been a real privilege to have been able to write for them for as long as I have, and I quite enjoy my relationship with everybody there and my affiliation with that magazine.
Yeah, it's like such a pristine magazine. It's like you said, nationally, for the outdoor community, for hunting and fishing. I have my subscription. I look forward to it. I also go online, and I see you're still posting like quite a few articles too, like every week or something.
Online you're talking about, Dan, you mean?
Yeah, online.
But, believe it or not, I don't. I mean, the magazine puts them on there. I'm kind of old school. I hate to admit it, but I don't have very much of a online presence that's proactive. I have a Facebook account, but I don't really post much. I more watch others, and the same with Twitter, or X as they call it. I have an account, but I don't really post much. So whatever Outdoor Canada puts online from me is something they're doing. It's not me, and to be honest with you, I don't even check it that often. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, even when I was trying to find you, we got connected through Facebook, because usually when I try to search someone, they got the Instagram, the Facebook. So I was like, I'm not sure if this is a real account. We're gonna see. Might get catfished here, but it worked out.
I'm getting to be one of the last of a dying breed. I know the world is moving on beyond just the written word, but they're going to have to move on without me probably, because I've always enjoyed the anonymity of writing. It's one of the real benefits that I've get out of it anyway is that I enjoy the craft of writing. I enjoy the process of writing. And, I've never really aspired to be an outdoor personality, as an example, which a lot of outdoor communicators do, and the mediums have changed. So now we have, podcasts and YouTube and a lot more television and things. And so people like yourself and others in those mediums, quickly become fairly high profile because people recognize you, and they hear you speak and they recognize your face. But writing has always kind of allowed a little bit of anonymity, and I've kind of enjoyed and appreciated that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like when you're writing, do you just have like your own home office anywhere that you are throughout the whole world, or what's your situation? What's your work situation like?
Yeah, I write from a home office. And for the longest time, I was a late night writer. My wife and I, we raised two boys, and I worked, a full time job, and I kind of learned to do my writing when the house was quiet, late at night, when everyone else went to bed. And so for the longest time, I was kind of a 10 o'clock to 2 a.m. writer. That's changed in recent years. My boys are grown now, and my wife and I are. Neither of us is employed full time anymore. We're both kind of contract work, and I've switched and become a morning writer now. So, but yeah, I've worked out of just a home office. I tried, I have a laptop, and I've had a few over the years, and I have tried to write when I travel, on airplanes, or if I'm in some location, and I just don't have I don't know if it's the discipline, Dan, or what it is, but I find I just quit bringing it because it just turned out to be weight I didn't need. And so I'm old school, and I take a notebook and a pen, and every night I write my notes about what happened during the day, and anything else that comes to mind. And then, when I get back home and in my office, I actually do my writing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that because I like to think, at least like the more old school way. I like the tradition of things, and like with the technology, everything's advancing so fast that you lose the authenticity sometimes. So yeah, I appreciate what you do. And how does one, or do you think nowadays like someone could get into freelancing and write articles for a magazine and make like a living or a side gig from that?
Yeah, you know what? To be honest with you, as a Canadian, it's tough to make a full-time living if you're going to write for the Canadian market. We just don't have enough titles, to write for in Canada. You really have to penetrate the U.S. market, which is eminently doable. We certainly have a number of Canadian outdoor writers who've done very well in the U.S. market. I used to write quite a bit in the U.S. back in my early days when I was writing more than I am now. And even today, you think of guys like Brad Fenson or TJ Schwanke or Jim Shockey, or, there's, it can be done, but it takes a lot of persistence. One thing I would say is that while here in Canada, we have fewer magazines than we used to. So there's more competition for the available kind of column inches today than there was, say, 20 or 30 years ago when we had a lot more magazines. But having said that, if you're willing to work at the craft of writing and become a good writer, there's opportunity for you, because editors are always looking for new ideas, new approaches to old issues. You think about it, there's only 4 ways to hunt a white-tailed deer, or 5 ways to catch a walleye. How is it that we have all these magazines over all these years, the market, the readers are always looking for just little nuances, new ways, and that means new people, presenting slightly different ideas. So the opportunity is there. But editors, are kind of lazy people. And I mean that in an affectionate way. They don't want to have to do a pile of work to clean up what you submit to them. And so the people who will get published are the people who work at their writing and make it interesting and write well. And they will always find a home in a magazine. Just because editors are so busy these days that they don't want to have to do a lot of work to clean up your material. Yeah.
Right.
And we're not seeing as much of that as we used to. Back when I started, there was no, if you wanted to be an outdoor communicator, there was maybe one outdoor television show or, on TV or two. There were no podcasts, there was no YouTubing, there was no Facebooking. If you wanted to be an outdoor communicator, you had to learn to write, and you had to kind of compete in a marketplace full of other people who wanted to write. Today, a lot of the outdoor communicators prefer other methods, whether it's television, podcasting, what have you. And so if you want to get into the writing side of outdoor communicating, I think there's lots of opportunity because there's not as many young or younger people kind of trying to move into those markets. That's why old goats like me, continue to have a home. Yeah.
Well, you guys are doing the right thing, and the way that I don't know, you guys portray your adventures and your journey, I think it's way better than this like a younger generation of writing. Writing is something that I like. I've actually had a passion for it over the last few years, just trying to like work on it slowly but surely. And that's why I was really interested in talking to you about, because you're a freelance writer for Outdoors Canada, you have your own book. And I do have when is it coming out? I think it's in 2026 with Ontario Out of Doors, the magazine.
Yeah.
So I got a little piece about hunting small game in the wintertime, how it can improve your big game archery skills. So I reached out to them. They always send out like inquiry of like, this is what we're looking for the year. And it's always like, it's the same things like you're just saying, but just different ideas.
Yeah. Well, first of all, congratulations. And secondly, I would encourage you or others of your listeners who might be interested in getting into the outdoor writing world, or quite frankly, anywhere in the outdoor communications market, to consider joining POMAC. And I don't know if you're familiar with POMAC, the Professional Outdoor Media Association of Canada. Used to be the Outdoor Writers of Canada. They rebranded a couple of years ago, and it's kind of the home of the establishment of the outdoor communications world. Ontario Out of Doors is a fantastic magazine, been around a long time. Gord Ellis is a good friend of mine, and of course Gord's been writing at Ontario Out of Doors about as long as I've been writing at Outdoor Canada, and we've got to know each other over the years. And I know what a fine writer he is, and what a good magazine that is. So, yeah, and he's a member of POMAC, as are most of the really established outdoor communicators. And I would encourage you, like I say, and others who might be interested in becoming an outdoor communicator to join. One of the interesting programs POMAC offers is a mentoring program. So, you might be a young man or woman who wants to get into it, but you really haven't got too far yet. You're not sure how to become more established or what you need to do. POMAC will set you up with a mentor who is established in the area that you want to become proficient, who's there to kind of provide advice and help you along the way. It's a great program, and you might want to consider it for yourself or for others of your listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just trying to write this down. I don't know if our connection might be delayed here. I just got a notification. Can you hear me still?
I can hear you, but the image, the picture is sort of jumping a little bit. Yeah, like it's delayed somewhat.
So, yeah. Okay. I think we might be back. Oh, yeah. Well, I do live, not the little side note here, I live 3 hours north of Toronto. So we have a little spotty internet, but we make do. But yeah, I was going to ask you, how do you spell Polmac? Is that what you said?
Yeah, POMAC, POMAC, which stands for Professional Outdoor Media Association of Canada. You can check out their
Okay.
website and learn everything about the organization. Yeah.
Okay. Well, definitely. I just put a little note there. I'll be checking that out tomorrow. I'm excited now because yeah, like it's cool to talk to mentors about this and to because writing I've really liked the fact that you can always improve, you can always change it, you can grow into it. It's not just math where it's like steady, which I do still do. I like math because everything I know 1 plus 1 equals 2.
Right.
Where with writing, I didn't like growing up, and now I've just like grown this passion for it because yeah, I like the fact that I can improve on it, I can work on it, and work on your craft.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's a never-ending journey. The writing side of things. And to sort of it allows you to be creative in a way that other mediums don't, I think. And that's one of the things I enjoy about it. There's a lot of different ways to say, jig your jig just a foot off the bottom kind of thing. The written word allows you to describe that 1,000 different ways.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now you mentioned that, like with new media coming out, different platforms. Do you think the magazine industry will ever fade out? Like people getting subscriptions and like that sort of thing. Do you think it'll fade out?
Well, I've been hearing the kind of death knell for magazines for 25 years. I remember when, VHS tapes, the old
Mm-hmm.
big cassette you
Yep.
plugged
Yep.
into a box that appeared on your television screen. You could rent movies and things. Um, I remember when
Yep.
they first came out, and somebody started a, a video magazine, if you will. And so it was kind of a magazine format, but instead of getting a printed magazine in the mail, they would mail you a VHS cassette every month. And,
Really?
that was going to spell the end of outdoor writing as we know it and magazines as we know it. And it was just the first of many things that I've heard, or, is going to be the kind of the killing shot for the magazine industry. But I don't think it's going to go away because there's still some things that magazines provide that no other format does. From an advertiser standpoint, it's of course the advertisers who pay the bills, no matter the format. Nothing is as long lasting as that magazine format. So, you can advertise on a TV show and there's your 30-second commercial, or, some of the other mediums, but the viewer then, or the listener or the reader, it's kind of there and it's gone. Well, most of us, I venture to guess if I went into your bathroom, there'd be a magazine there, and we keep them around and we read them over and over and over again until the next issue comes out. And
Yep.
they have a lasting impression that no other medium does. And I think it's the advertisers who really direct where this world of outdoor communications is going to go. And they have never given up on the print side of it because I think it pays dividends for them. Clearly it does, or they would have moved entirely into other formats. So the magazine world has certainly contracted down. We don't have near as many different titles as we used to have. But the ones we do have seem to be holding their own, and still provide a service to the readership. And there's still something about checking the mailbox in the latest issue of
Yep.
Outdoor Canada or Ontario Out of Doors or whatever magazine you subscribe to is there. It still gives you that spark that you really look forward to turning the cover and seeing what's inside. So I think they'll be here
Hmm.
for a while yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope they continue because, like you said, I always look forward to just you seeing that magazine, you're holding it, and you open it up, and I always like kind of like quick skim through it, and then like get excited like a kid in a candy shop, and then I just go back and I gotta read through it. But yeah, it's something I grew up with, and if I went on a hunting trip with my dad, we would stop by the store, pick up a magazine to read along the way. So it's like part of the tradition for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, they're and you bring up a good point. They're really portable. So when
Mhm.
you're going to your hunting camp or your fishing camp or going someplace remote where you're not connected or some of these other mediums just aren't very practical. Magazine doesn't take up much space. It's a good way to pass time in the deer blind or wherever you might be.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And so I got your book here.
Oh,
I'm about
thank you.
halfway done. Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, the stories that you share are just incredible. And I was actually just talking to my buddy about this. That one thing I really enjoyed is you're mentioning the places like the certain rivers that you go to, the Stag River, the George River, and for me, sometimes I don't know where these places are, so I'll just stop. I'll Google, and I'm like, oh man, he was all the way up there, like no man's land.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just like it's a fascinating book. I'm halfway through roughly, and I just got to when you were moose hunting in Newfoundland.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, no, just well done. And yeah, just I think every Canadian should honestly read this book.
Oh well.
Mm.
I appreciate the kind comments. Um, I've had the opportunity to hunt or fish in a lot of places. A lot of different countries and things. And sometimes you don't really realize what's out your back door. We all want to go to Africa or if you want to go to Asia if you're a sheep hunter and shoot a big argali or you know, go to the remote jungles of the Amazon to catch peacock bass or things. So we all have that kind of wanderlust about if we're outdoorsmen about going to some of these strange and exotic places. But you know, the impetus for that book was I've been lucky enough to have hunted and fished from coast to coast to coast over the years, and I realized just what a wonderful place we live in and the opportunities that we have here, and that's why I called the book No Place Like Home, and the
It's a
stories
great
are
title.
all Canadian or have a Canadian connection. I won't give away the ending, but um, you know, I don't think we celebrate what we have here, right here at home, often enough. And
Hmm.
all these years later, there's still hunts or fishing trips right here in Canada that I'm still aspiring to do. Because we
Yeah.
have so much variety and so many incredible places to visit. And there's no better way to see them than with a rifle, shotgun, bow, or fishing rod in your hand. You really
No.
get to see the land when you're doing what we enjoy doing.
Oh yeah, and even because I actually was born and raised in Mississauga, so the city area, and every time I spoke to somebody, it was like when they wanted to travel, it's like, oh, I'm just going to travel to Europe, travel here. I'm like, man, just drive north, check that country out, man. Go to Lake Superior, like it's beautiful, it's amazing. I don't know, it's jaw dropping in a way, and people just like, man, just take it for granted, just like whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, isn't
So.
that the truth? I did a hunt here about 3 weeks ago um, that I had never done before. A friend and I rode horseback up into the Rocky Mountains to hunt blue grouse, and
Wow.
I had never blue grouse hunted before, and it was one of those things on my bucket list. My Canadiana bucket list was, and they only live kind of at tree line in the mountains,
Hmm.
and so we rode horses up this mountain and pitched our little pup tents there and stayed for 3 days and hunted blue grouse. And There's
Photographs.
still a whole bunch of other things like that I would like to do one day here in Canada. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like a never-ending list. Like even when I went moose hunting up near Hearst area in Ontario, a little bit northern Ontario, and there's spruce grouse up there. There's like usually it's just kind of rough grouse down in my area, but it's just different grouse. But it's just something cool. It's like I've never hunted spruce grouse, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. The variety
yeah.
is endless. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Do you have one hunt or adventure that really sticks out in this book?
Uh,
I feel like it's hard.
well, yeah, it's hard to pick a favorite. But one that comes to mind, because you just mentioned Hearst, and I don't know where it is in the book if you read it yet, but a buddy and I canoed the Sutton River. So we drove up to Hearst and then took a float plane from there 2 hours north and got onto the Sutton River and paddled it for 9 days and fished these big, beautiful brook trout, and in complete wilderness. We didn't see a soul after the first day on that river for 9 days.
Oh
And
my gosh.
these huge brook trout, and we're just putting our tent up wherever we kind of happened to end up that evening, and it was a real highlight trip for me. I had actually read a book called Brook Trout by this fella in the U.S., and he had done a second edition of it and added a new chapter called what's it called? The Best Brook Trout River in the World, and it was about
Yep. I remember reading that.
Do you? You know it then? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that got me turned on to the Sutton River, and I sort of did a little looking about who could kind of get us there and how it all worked, because you got to have a canoe when you get there and things, and so that was a real favorite trip of mine. Yeah.
Oh, I bet. I mean, especially when you're up that way. And like how do you go when you plan a trip like that? Like are you a year out too, or you're like, you know what, a month away, I just want to go?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it sort of depends on the trip and who I'm going with. I have some buddies who are really good spur of the moment kind of guys, and we might just go, a couple months out, if it's a excuse me, a significant trip where we might go, hey, we should go do this, and we do it quickly. But others, take a little planning, and there's some of these trips that you've read about or will read about, are with outfitters, and that requires advanced planning because most often they're booked, in advance. There's been some that are kind of a year out when I start planning. I kind of like the spur of the moment ones because, you don't have time to overthink it or overplan it.
Yep.
You just go and do it. And
Hop in the truck and you're like, well, see what happens.
exactly. And there's still lots to be said for that.
Yeah, definitely. There's a part in the book that I wanted to just kind of revisit, and it was when you did that fly-in elk hunt on the Muskwa. Is that how you say it? Muskwa?
Yes.
Yeah, Muskwa River, and you were talking to the pilot about landing on that sandbank, and just like the experience, the pilot was like, "Oh yeah, there's a guy that crashed his plane." Like over there, he's very experienced, and he's like so nonchalant. You're just like, okay.
Yeah, I remember that because he would actually kind of show us. You could see the sort of scars on the landscape of previous plane crashes, right? And and I don't know what the heck I'm in for, but these guys are good. Those guys or most of them are good, I guess, or you don't last very long, maybe. But I couldn't believe the sandbar he put us down on. You just close your eyes and squeeze the seat handles tight and hope when you open your eyes again you're still on planet Earth, because it's a spooky thing for sure.
Oh my god, I can't imagine. I think I've only been to like a bush plane once, but it was like big open tarmac we were landing, easy peasy.
Right. Yeah. Well, I've been fortunate enough to be on them many times over the years, but mostly on water, where you have a lot of room to work with. This was actually, a little different, and it's one of the few times I was a little white knuckle coming in for sure. Yeah. Well, the other thing about
Oh my
that trip
gosh.
is, I was a little hippophobic, as they say, going into that. I had no experience riding horses, and that
Hmm.
was going to be 10 days on horseback in the mountains, and I didn't have a clue what I was in for, and didn't know how to steer a horse or, do anything with a horse going into it. And so that added a little nervousness to the whole thing because it was in a mountain environment. But by day 3 or 4, I could at least get them to turn left when I wanted to and turn right every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it added to the whole adventure, quite frankly.
Oh, I no question about it. And yeah, not to give too much away in your book, because I really truly want more people to who are listening to go and buy your book. But that was the same trip where you shot a bull. You guys go off. I forget his name, but he goes. He shoots a bull as well, and you come back and you find your meat basically gone.
Yeah, yeah.
How was that
Well,
feeling? Like that was
well, it,
rough.
it was horrible. And I had shot my bull and we'd hung it, this bull elk we're talking, and we had hung it, we'd strung a line between two trees and hung 4 quarters and then the back straps, kind of in a game bag, and we had the head there too, hanging, I guess. And then we went off, for a few days to go higher up the mountains to where my buddy shot his elk. And anyway, when we come back, the only thing that's still hanging between those two trees is that game bag with the back straps in it. Everything else is.
Oh,
And not only had the bear or bears got most of my elk, but they had trashed the main tent we had put up there too, with all, our food supplies and everything. And yeah, fortunately, my buddy was pretty good about it and shared some of his meat with me.
no, that's nice. That's why hunters are the best.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And something I learned from your book too was you could hire packers, and not, you don't always have to go with outfitters, but you can hire packers. Yeah. If you're a non-resident, say like myself, could I hire a packer in Alberta and hunt elk, for instance?
No, and so that's why we were there actually on that trip, because that was a really contentious issue, the whole packer issue, because the outfitters were not happy with this packing industry being allowed to
Mm.
emerge and flourish. And it was a packer who invited my friend and I to go sort of experience 10 days with him and learn what it's all about. And I don't think that industry, I don't think that industry exists anymore, not for a non-resident to be able to do it. You certainly can, like in Alberta where I live, I could hire somebody to horse pack me up into the mountains.
Right.
And but as an Ontario resident, I don't believe you would be able to. I think you would have to go through an outfitter, and I believe
Right.
it's like that in BC. So the fact that we got to experience it and really see some wonderful country, it was just sort of the timing of it when we were there that this issue had arisen, and they were looking to get some people to sort of experience it and write about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. And how long ago was that trip?
Well, it would be the late 90s, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
a while back.
Oh, that's so cool. Though. I love hearing the like. I don't know. That's the outdoor journey of one individual. It's like when you're talking 10, 20 years, 30 years. Like there's so much, and yeah, it time changes and so cool. But yeah, I one thing I was like really interested was that the outfitters and the packers, because like for an outfitter, yeah, it's expensive. You're looking, I don't know, 10, maybe more grand if you want to go out for an elk or something. So I just didn't know if that was still a thing with like the whole packer industry.
I think a lot of the issue for the outfitters, and probably rightfully so, boiled down to their investment. They're investing a lot of money to build lodges and camps and
Mm-hmm.
to build their business. only at that time to be confronted with a new industry, this packing industry that simply kind of dragged people up into the backcountry or up into the mountains, and didn't really have to invest much to be able to do it, and could charge, similar kinds of money or close to it. And I understood then, and I understand now, why the outfitting community really pushed back on that. It's
Yeah,
but
makes
if you're a
sense.
resident, certainly I think in BC or in Alberta here, you can hire somebody who has horses to get you, into the wilderness country, yeah, and leave you there or show you around or whatever, yeah.
That's cool. Well, it's definitely a dream. I hope one day I can make it out west to Alberta, and well, I've gone there for traveling, for pleasure and stuff, but I want to go hunt elk. I want to do some cool adventures out that way. So hopefully one day I'll make it out there.
Well, yeah, do it for sure, and that's what I guess I would encourage, and that's what my book was trying to do, was inspire people to, if you enjoy the outdoor lifestyle, we got 6,000 miles wide of it, whether it's
Oh,
a river, a lake, a mountain, a forest, whatever your passion is, there's lots more of it out there, and I encourage people to do it. And I know what it's like, raising a family, and you're busy, your husband or your wife is busy, you're raising kids, they're busy, everything costs more money than it should. So there's a lot of reasons why not to do those things, and there's probably only one reason to do them, and I've always believed that's the right reason. That's the reason you should follow. You should try to find a way to fit it in. You'll not regret it. You'll regret the
yeah,
things you didn't do more than you'll ever regret the things you did do. Yeah.
yeah. And then there's always an excuse, there's a reason. Oh, it's next year, or after we have kids, or whenever, and then you end up just not doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was also one story in your book that made me laugh because I also have a trike here, like a Honda. It's like a 1883 Honda. Sketchy.
Let me guess, coming down the mountain with that grizzly bear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got it.
I understand why they've outlawed those things.
Oh yeah, my dad had one of them. I think he had it for a year or two when they first kind of came out, and he would be popping wheelies, doing crazy stuff. And his dad, my grandpa, would just look at him like, "What are you doing? You're psycho." And he's like, "Sell that thing. I'll buy you the new 4x4 one. You're gonna kill yourself."
Yeah.
And sure enough, I traded like a dirt bike for this trike just because it's like nostalgic, it's just like kind of cool. I've always wanted one. And then I was taking it down a hill here, and similar to you, I just was like, just trying to bobbing around, and I flipped over.
Yeah, I'm surprised more of us didn't kill ourselves on them, quite frankly. The story you're referring to was a grizzly bear hunt a buddy and I did in BC. I was actually living in BC at the time, so I could buy a tag as a resident over the license, and we kind of did our homework. And if I recall correctly, we had a quad and a trike, and we went
That's
up
right.
this
Yeah.
up this mountain, and again just pitched our pup tents and hunted for a week. And I got lucky, and I shot a nice grizzly bear. But as you know, there's limited place to pack things on a trike, especially, and the added weight of a grizzly bear hide. I don't even know what it would weigh. An extra 100 and some pounds, and the skull and all. Anyway, coming down this mountain now, I'm sort of front and top heavy, and yeah, I didn't make it to the bottom without tipping that thing a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine. What size was your ATV? Was it just like because I think it's just a 200 here, and those things are light and you could throw them around basically.
Yeah, it was either a 200 or a 250. I can't recall. We still have an old trike, a 1985 trike I have a deer and duck camp kind of west of Edmonton, about an hour and a half, and we still have a trike out there. That's just it just keeps on running. So why would you throw it out? Yeah.
Yeah, that's my best starting machine. I could go out right now and fire it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's freaking awesome. There was one other thing I wanted to run by you, and so in the States, if you're I don't know out of state, you can apply for other tags. You can do over the counter tags. It's not quite the same here in Canada. Do you ever or could you ever see it being the same as the States? Like where a guy like myself in Ontario could start applying for tags in Alberta or doing over the counter
Yeah.
hunt?
Well, so we have a program in Alberta that allows residents to take non-resident Canadians and even non-residents maybe on a sort of a friends basis, but you can only take two people, and I think you can only do that every second year or something. And
Okay,
so you can put in for our draws, but I think you have to be in the draw with a resident. So
gotcha.
if you had a buddy in Alberta and said, "Hey, I want to get in on the pronghorn antelope hunt. Can we start putting in the draw together?" That's eminently doable. Um,
Hmm.
but there are some hunts in Canada. Saskatchewan is a good example where they don't allow non-resident Canadians to come over and hunt mule deer, as an example. And there's a number of places that, excuse me, you really have to go through the services of an outfitter, which is sort of unfortunate, just because of the expense of it. But I think they need to do that just to sort of protect the resource, or we'd all want to go Saskatchewan and shoot a mule deer, in Alberta and shoot an antelope.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have to. And there's enough resident demand. We have some tags here in Alberta, and pronghorn antelope is a good example. You pretty much need to be in the draw for 10 or 12 years before you're going to get drawn here.
Really?
Yeah. There are some long waits.
Yeah.
Even for the residents.
is that like a point based system where you'll just keep collecting points over X amount of years that you're not successful, and then you can
Yeah,
get
you collect a priority point every year you're in the draw, and then next year's draw they start with the people who have the highest number of priority points and work down depending on how many tags they have available. Turkey hunting, which you guys have lots of turkey hunting in Ontario. I get down there and hunt most years. We have turkey here in Alberta, but I think it's a 15-year wait to get drawn. So for many people, it's only
wow.
2 or 3 times in a lifetime to get drawn. Where I hunt my moose out at my camp, it's not a particularly desirable place to hunt moose, but there's moose around. But it's a 3 or 4 year wait. Good mule deer hunting areas in Alberta, even for a resident, will take you 7, 8 years to get drawn.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It sounds like similar for moose up here because we just in Ontario, you probably know that we just switched to a point based system instead of it being a group of 15, 20. So for me, I find I like the system better because I usually go by myself or I go with a small party. And then I would like to go a little bit further north, and that allows me to just get a tag. To be honest, because before I'd be applying to a spot and I'd be competing with a group of 5, 10, I don't know, 20 people, and I would just never get a tag.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've always thought that the optimal, and I'm most familiar with Alberta here, so, if you move yourself to Alberta and you want to hunt an antelope, it's going to be a 10, 12, 15-year wait as a resident. I've always thought, what, that priority system is really good, and they should give out 90% of the tags that way.
Mm-hmm.
But they should have 10% of the tags that are just luck of the draw every year, so that we can all sort of keep that aspiration open and striking it rich one day. And heck, I got an antelope draw, and after only 2 years of trying, I'm one of the lucky ones. Yeah. I'd love to see them do that.
They should do that for moose here too, because in my area in particular, because I got so many moose, I see more moose than any animal in my backyard here, like big, like decent sized bulls. But you would have to wait 20 years probably to get 20 points, whatever the case is, to have a good chance of getting a tag. in this area. And yeah, I think it'd be kind of cool just to like have like a 10%, like you said, random lottery.
Yeah,
So why not?
I think it'll be good. Keep people enthused and keep people interested and keep people in the draw. Otherwise, I think people get discouraged and go, I'm not even going to bother putting in because it's a 20-year wait for me.
Hmm.
Getting more and more people in the draw, I think, is always good because it's putting more money into the resource and showing those that manage the resource that there's high demand and we need to protect it. And like I say, I think just fun to be. I always have that hope, right? It's like why we buy
Yeah,
lottery tickets, just
it's a good point.
on the off chance that one day we're the lucky one.
Yeah, and then a lot of guys, I mean, they don't want to travel 8, 10, 16 hours in Ontario at least, like to go moose hunting. Like a lot of guys from the GTA just want to drive that 3 hours and have their deer camp, and then potentially go moose hunting.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So,
yeah, sure. What do your fall hunting plans look like?
I'm off to my duck camp for a couple days here, right after on Thanksgiving Monday. I'll hunt. I'm a really passionate diving duck hunter, and so I have a friend and I have had a cabin on a diving duck lake for 30 years, and I'll get out with him because I missed a big chunk because I was in Africa, and we're always worried about freeze up. Often it freezes up by the middle of October here, so
Right.
I'll get out for a couple days and hunt with him for diving ducks, and then I have a trip planned to Manitoba at the end of next week. Believe it or not, I went to college in Fish and Wildlife Resources in Lethbridge, Alberta. I won't tell you when. Just say it was a long time ago, and I still get together with some guys that we met each other in college, and we still get together every year for a hunt in Manitoba. And
Wow.
so it'll be goose hunting most likely, yeah. And we'll spend a few days telling stories about how great we were when we were young, and
The good old days, eh?
the good old days, yeah. And we wrap it all around some goose hunting, so that'll be fun. And then November, we were talking about draws. I didn't get any draws this year, so that makes me eligible here in Alberta to hunt whitetails. I can buy tags over the counter, and I'll buy a bull elk tag because we have over the counter bull elk hunting. And that'll really be the bulk of my November, which is the vast majority of our big game season ends at the end of November.
Wow.
Although it just today, coincidentally, I threw my name in for a draw that just opened up. The government opened up a season just in the last 2 weeks. They opened it up, but the season doesn't actually open until the 1st of December, I think, or the 15th of December for a bison hunt up in northern Alberta, and it's a draw, but there's no priority for this one. It's just I think there's 45 tags, and they're going to pull them out of the hat, and on October 15th. So I threw my name in the ring for that. So who knows? Maybe I'll be on a bison hunt sometime.
Wow.
Yeah,
And so that's new to this year?
it's new to this year. They've had it in the past, and they actually closed it. And they're reopening it this year. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Oh, that'd be cool to get. I'll be eager to hear if you get that.
yeah. I've not hunted bison before, and so there you go. One more thing on the old bucket list that with a little luck, maybe this will be the year I hunt bison. And the season goes, I think, from December 1st or December 15th till the end of February. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
it's a midwinter hunt. It's probably snow machines and backcountry, and yeah, yeah.
Oh, that sounds like a wicked adventure.
Doesn't it though? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Alberta has the best hunting. Like, I don't know. For the way I see it, at least, like they just got so many cool different big game animals, and
Yeah.
yeah.
We're really lucky here because we have such diverse landscapes. I mean, we have bald ass prairie, we have the
Yep.
biggest mountains, and the foothills and the boreal forest. So, you have all these different habitat types, then you've got all these different wildlife types, yeah, and fish
Oh
for that
yeah.
matter. We
Hmm.
don't have the number of fish-bearing water bodies that you would in Ontario by a long shot, but we have great diversity. We have the mountain streams for trout and the prairies for walleye and the lake trout and stuff in the north. And yeah, we've got really good diversity, grayling and yeah, yeah.
That's cool. Have you ever been to Great Slave Lake?
I have. As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, I'm not sure if there's a story in the book or not. I've been to Great Slave Lake a couple times. I have fished there at a lodge called Frontier Lodge
Okay.
and at a place called Snowdrift. And actually, a buddy and I, we got into catching lake trout on our fly rods up there.
Oh my
And
gosh.
that was just an absolute panic. Yeah, so I've been there a couple times. And the Stag River that you mentioned is actually a tributary into Great Slave Lake. And so
Okay.
I've hunted ducks in Great Slave Lake as well. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, my dad would rave about it all the time. I have the he went up there with his dad going for lake trout, and he said you'd catch them in shallow water, big freaking trout. He actually kept the rod that he was using up there. So now I have that rod, and so I have this urge to get there eventually one day too.
Yeah, do it. The beauty of those northern waters is they never get warm. Because they stay cold, the trout stay relatively shallow, all year long. You can be catching trout in 20 feet, big lake trout in 20 feet of water or less because it only gets to kind of 4 degrees or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, that's like perfect temp. Like, yeah, that's. I mean, here I love ice fishing for lake trout. My buddy and I, we go out every year. We I don't know, go relatively deep, 60, 80 feet of water, sometimes even more. And actually listen to Gord Pizer for years now. He would always be like, "Oh, go higher up on the water column. They're like, freshwater sharks are coming in." So there's a few times that we actually have seen lake trout just cruise right under the ice, and it's like amazing to see. But you wouldn't see that in the summertime, just only in winter.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, and that's offered up there. There's a number of lakes, Great Slave and Great Bear and Elmer and a few others that really offer opportunity to catch, 40, 50, 60 pound lake trout, I suppose, without
Wow.
having to use downriggers or, anything like that. Yeah.
What's your biggest lake trout?
Well, now understand I've fished Great Bear Lake and I've fished Great Slave a couple times and I've fished Elmer and I've never the biggest one probably I ever caught was a 45 or 6 inch fish out of Elmer Lake. I don't know what it weighed. I'm guessing 35. I've never got into the real. I've never hooked one of those monsters that people
Right.
do. I remember my wife and I spent a week on Great Bear Lake, and they keep a chart up there. Every day the guides come in, and our client got this, and the week we were there, there was I don't know like 4 or 5 50 plus pounders caught, and almost every boat got a 40 plus pounder, and I think the biggest my wife and I got that week was like 25 pounds or something. So I've never had the good luck that some others have had with lake trout, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's all right. Like that's, I mean, so I have a story where I was out with my buddies for just in the Huntsville area. I don't know if you know where that is in
Huntsville?
Ontario. Yeah,
Yeah, in
yeah,
Bracebridge country, sort of.
yep, yeah, you got it. And we were out there, and it was like just weather was terrible, like snowing like crazy. The ice wasn't the best too. It was like mixed that slush, weird stuff. So sledding out there sucked. And that's I was in like 16 feet of water. I'm just jigging. We're just like, how long are we gonna be out here? Probably not that long. And then I see this bigger mark kind of coming up. Well, that's interesting. I hooked this fish. I think it's a pike because I'm in relatively shallow water, and it ends up being like I don't know, 8 pound, 6, 8 pound lake trout. And to that, I was like, that was my biggest lake trout, and it was just like, it's not massive, but to me, it was like the whole experience, like just what we were witnessing that day, and it's just like, holy crap, we actually caught like a nice, beautiful lake trout. Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love lake trout. The all those chars, really, right? Whether it's brook trout or lake trout or Arctic char, I love fishing for all of them. And you know, it's one thing if you're at Great Bear Lake and you got a chance to catch a 50, 60 pounder, but in a lot of our southern lakes, like you say, an 8 pounder, a 10 pounder is a big fish, and a 10 pounder from a southern lake is everything that a 60 pounder is from Great Bear Lake. Let me tell you,
Right.
yeah, it's the trophy fish in that lake. Yeah,
Yeah. No, and they just like the coolest fish too. Like the second that you see one coming out of the ice, and like I basically I'll ice fish more than I'll fish in the summertime, and I just like there's something about snagging that fish
right.
and then just pulling it right out of that hole. Just the feeling is like undescribable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
big heads and mouths on them, eh? Yeah,
yeah, just solid jaws and
yeah.
yeah, cool creatures. Um, Yeah. So what's your next like big adventure that you have planned, or do you have one?
I don't have anything really big planned. I guess that's a relative thing. My wife and I, we have a little more time to travel together now, and so we're going to go down to the Bahamas in February and try and catch bonefish on our fly rods
Mm,
down there. So, from a fishing perspective, that's a pretty exciting one for us.
yeah.
Um, and hunting, nothing really spectacular. I'll get back to Africa next year like I do every year, and I don't know
Yeah.
what it will be for at this point. My buddy organizes all that.
Is it different areas in Africa too?
Yeah, so we've hunted 5 different countries now, and they're all a little bit different and have different mixes of species. And to me, it sort of doesn't really matter too much the species for the most part. I like seeing the new areas
Hmm.
and just being out where you might see a dozen different species of big game during the day, and you're or you're out there, hunting some little impala or something, and you're watching giraffes walk by, or some
Yeah.
elephants off in the distance. Like I say, it still brings me back to being a kid. I just love being in and around wildlife. I So the first time most people go to Africa, it's kind of a whack 'em and stack 'em affair, right? Like you go and you want to shoot as many different species as you can, and I get that. I did that. Now my goal is always kind of stay as long as I can get away with and shoot as little as I can get away with. I don't need to. I always want to shoot some animal or something. That's kind of why you're there to hunt, but.
Yep.
I don't have a desire. I'm not trying to get one of everything, and I don't. I'm not trying to kind of pile up the protein anymore. I really just love being out there and experiencing it, and if I can, if I can shoot an animal, great. Or like I
Yeah.
say, the last number of years I've been doing a lot of wing shooting over there, and it's sort of the same. You're doing it in this beautiful surrounding with other wildlife around, and yeah, and getting the chance to do a little shotgunning. So yeah,
Yeah. Not bad. And do you bring all your guns over and stuff to you?
you know what, Dan, I used to at one time. I don't generally anymore. You can do it, and
Hmm.
there's permitting both on the Canadian side and on the African side, and it's really not all that complicated. It's just the hassle of doing it. But I found it's easier to travel without firearms, and because you kind of have to go through Europe, and some of those countries aren't very favorable with firearms, and it's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
doable. But so is borrowing or renting a rifle or a shotgun when you get there, and
Yeah.
so that's what I typically do now. Yeah.
And then when you do, or when you are successful harvesting in something, um, with that meat, can you bring some of that meat home?
Unfortunately, you can't. The Canadian government won't let you bring that kind of meat back into our country, but you do get to eat all of it while you're there, or try all of it while you're there, which I really love. If there's one thing that they're good at in Africa, it's not letting a single iota of protein go to waste. Every cut of meat, every organ, every bit of skin and bone, all
Wow.
gets used for various things over there. Um,
Yeah.
the local native populations there, in some areas have a pretty hard scrabble existence, and hunting does so much good for their communities because they get to share in the meat that the folks like you or I, from the animals we would harvest over there. That meat goes, most of the meat, what doesn't go to the sort of outfitter's camp to feed his guests, goes to those local communities. And, you know, without it, they wouldn't get the chance to eat much proteins.
Yeah.
You feel like you're doing something good for the communities.
Yeah, because there's a lot of like outsiders I find that are like non-hunters, and they look at people who go to Africa and hunting, and they just think you're doing something terrible. But they don't realize like all the good that hunters from North America do for them. Go to put all the money goes to conservation to help poachers. Then meat goes to local tribes. Like there's a lot that hunters do.
Yeah. And, even more and much more so than the photographic safaris. And I've been on those too. I mean, it's a great experience. I love it. But you're not contributing as much to the local economy by any stretch. It costs a whole heck of a lot more to go hunting over there than it does to go on a photographic tour. And on top of the money that's being injected into the local community, because of course the outfitters hire all the local people as trackers and skinners and cooks and all the other chores, so they're getting jobs there. But beyond the sort of the economic input, there's also the added value of the meat that they're getting. And it's too bad that the anti-hunting community won't really awaken themselves to the realities of what happens in Africa and other places like it around the world, where
Mm-hmm.
hunters contribute so much to the well-being of the wildlife and the people over there. And if there's one thing they've discovered in Africa more than anywhere else, if you take away hunting, you are essentially signing a death sentence for a lot of the wildlife because
Yeah.
if it has value, it will be managed and protected. But the minute it doesn't have value because you're not allowing somebody to go hunt it, it's going to be poached. It's going to be poached indiscriminately, and before long, outside of the national parks, there'll be no wildlife. And that's
Yeah.
been
They just
repeated
won't.
over and over there. Yeah.
Yeah, and they need that, and people, the non-hunters, leave the elephants, the lions, the X, whatever, leave them alone. But you know, they if you do that, then they'll be gone.
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, you gotta put a value to them, and I think that's a hard concept for them to wrap their head around. But um, hopefully, there's guys like you can shed some light on the importance of it. You've been there firsthand and experienced it, and yeah, I can like share your experience back with to people like me, myself, and other platforms, and then more people can get educated.
Yeah, one of the challenges, Dan, and we have this tendency to preach to the converted, right? I mean, you and I can talk about those things, but how do
Yep.
we get
Yeah.
that message out to the anti-hunting community or the non-hunting community? Even they don't even have to be anti-hunters; they're just the non-hunting community, which is bigger than either the hunting community or the anti-hunting community. Just
Right.
people
Yeah.
who don't hunt but don't really have a problem with it, but also don't know much about it. Um, and that's always the challenge for people like you and people like me who are in the outdoor communicating world is to get our message beyond just our little circle. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hope maybe with the podcast I'm doing, the community that I've met over the years on social media, hopefully that message of that hunters are conservationists, that gets spread, and we can change the opinions of those, not like you said, not anti-hunters, but just non-hunters.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's wrap this up here, Ken. But I just want to say thank you very much for taking the time and coming on the podcast. I hope everyone goes buys your book, and yeah, I look forward to your upcoming adventures.
Well, thanks, Dan. It's been a real pleasure. I really appreciate the invitation, and I appreciate it more now that I've had the conversation with you and learned a little bit more about you and your work. It's been an honor to be a part of it. So thank you for inviting me.
Oh, anytime at all. And maybe if I'm lucky enough, I get to share an adventure and experience with you one day.
Let's make it happen, brother.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Okay.
All right. Bye, everybody.
All right.